Since I was a little kid, I've liked stories. I've never cared from what medium they come from. Books, movies, video games, manga. As long as they are enjoyable, every story is worth a try. And few worlds have been able to make me as invested in a story as One Piece has. I caught up with the manga during the Thriller Bark saga. That was in 2008, I believe. And now that it's supposedly in its final stretch, in its final saga, I've decided to embark in a new adventure. I'm Carp, and in this series of videos I'll review and analyze Eiichiro Oda's magnum opus arc by arc. So let's start at the beginning, with the first arc of the series, Romance Dawn. Everything starts with the tale of the execution of the Pirate King, Gold Roger, whose last words triggered the beginning of a great pirate era. Iconic beginning. It sets up the story and the world perfectly without revealing anything at all except for little fragments of information, most of them open to interpretation. Who was he? What does it mean to be the king of the pirates? How was he captured? Where is his treasure? What is his treasure? 12 years later, we meet our protagonist, a kid named Monkey D. Luffy, and his father figure, role model, something along those lines. The captain of the red-haired pirates, red-haired Shanks. It's difficult to get a read on Luffy. That's because of two things. One, we don't know anything about him, and two, he doesn't have internal monologue. That makes it impossible to know what is he thinking. You could summarize Luffy's character as dumb, brave, loyal, and hungry. But you could also summarize Goku like that, and he's quite different. Shanks, on the other hand, is just as unreadable. He seems like a nice guy, but he's scared as seeking with a single look, and we don't know anything about him either. Then we are introduced to the concept of devil fruits. Magical fruits that give you incredible power, but in exchange, you lose the ability to swim. Luffy eats one of these fruits by mistake, that for some reason the red-haired pirates had left it on a table in front of a hungry child? And how did they get their hands on this supposedly legendary fruit? Leaving that aside, this specific devil fruit gives Luffy's body the properties of rubber. Then, after an event that involved a group of bandits, a sea king, and a life lesson, Shanks loses an arm in a now iconic panel. That event motivates Luffy to gather a crew, surpass the red-haired pirates, find the One Piece, and become the Pirate King. And then comes another iconic panel. Shanks gives Luffy his straw hat, that apparently is very important to him, and makes him promise to give it back to him when he becomes a great pirate. This is a great introduction that appears simple in a first read-through, but if you look closely there are many plot holes and hints that will make sense in hundreds of chapters. There are some questions that still haven't been answered even to this day. Personally, I appreciate it more today that I have a lot more context. 10 years later, it's time for Luffy to start his own adventure. He leaves the town and the island in a little boat with no specific direction in mind. His next couple of adventures that made the rest of the arc aren't that interesting for me as the first chapter, but let's go through them. First, he saves a very annoying kid named Kobe from a lady pirate named Iron Mace Alvida. Kobe's dream has always been to leave Alvida and join the Navy, but he is too much of a coward to even try. Then comes Luffy, inspires him, not on purpose, defeats Alvida with a single punch, and then they both leave the island of the pirates together. There is little to say about this adventure because not really much happens. We are introduced to the concept of the Grand Line, the sea where the One Piece may be located, and we are introduced to Kobe, I guess. The two new characters, Kobe and Alvida, aren't really interesting. They annoy me, and worse, now one of them is with Luffy. He may be useful to the story because now Luffy, that doesn't have an internal monologue, has someone to talk to, so that can give us, the readers, a lot more information, but he's only useful in that regard, and he's annoying. We arrive at a new town in a new island, where we'll secure our first real crewmate, the pirate hunter Roronoa Zoro, a swordsman that fights with 3 swords, one in each hand and one in the mouth, because why not? I'm going to be honest, Zoro isn't interesting to me in this specific arc, and I don't like his backstory at all. My main problem with him is his motivation, Kuina. Her death doesn't feel deserved, and she's just a stepping stone to make Zoro a more fleshed out character, and even that doesn't quite do it right. I feel that it's a disservice to a potentially interesting character. A lot more could have been done with this backstory, and in my eyes this hurts the character of Zoro a lot. Regarding the circumstances of Zoro joining the crew, Luffy saves him from a navy captain, Axe-Hand Morgan, and his annoying son Helmeppo. While the antagonists are boring, the fight scenes are enjoyable. And Kobe is there too. I don't know if you can tell I don't really like Kobe. Thankfully, they leave him behind so he can join the navy, and then Zoro and Luffy set sail for their next adventure. So what did I think about this whole arc? Well, a good story needs to start in a way that catches the eye of the reader and leaves them hungry for more content. Good examples are Coppola's The Godfather and Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight. I believe Romance Dawn as an introduction could be better. I mean, if it were any other manga, I'd say this great, but One Piece isn't a normal manga, or a normal story even. It's a true masterpiece, peak fiction, and Romance Dawn isn't at that level. If you just started this series and aren't convinced if you want to continue after this first 7-chapter arc, I advise you to continue reading. No one falls in love with this series at this point, but if you persevere, chances are you will. Knowing that I am very harsh in my reviews, I give a lot of chances and time to a story before dropping it. I like to have an informed opinion with as much context as I possibly can. And believe me when I say that I'm incredibly thankful that I continued One Piece. Now it's time to rank this arc. I have this tier list, and my plan is to fill every single tier with 3 arcs, except the top one that will have only 1. Remember, there are 31 arcs in total at this point in time. I believe we are now in the 32nd. Of course, the rankings can and will change over time. So for now, I'll put Romance Dawn in good. I've heard many people say that One Piece doesn't have bad arcs, and I agree, but it does have arcs that are weaker than others, and Romance Dawn is definitely weaker than most of them. It's nothing special, it definitely lacks an interesting antagonist, and personally it didn't hook me, but it's not bad. If you disagree, please put your arguments in the comments and tell me, what did you think of this first arc? See you in my review of the next arc of One Piece, Orange Town.